Welcome to this AutoCAD training for beginners live class. This is the second edition. So this second edition is a follow-up of the first edition. In the first edition, we learned how to make use of some tools, some drawing tools and modifying tools. Then at the end of it, we're able to do a sketch. We use the building sketch to practice. So the idea is to get used and comfortable with some of the tools that we have learned. In this particular live edition, we'll be learning how to draw to dimension. As a matter of fact, we'll be making an orthographic drawing at the end of this edition, at the end of this training. We'll be practicing uh, dimension drawings. So in this particular edition, we'll be learning a few more drawing and modifying tools. Then at the end of it all, we're going to be making dimension drawings. So you're going to learn a lot. So join me in this. You'll be learning a lot. So let's get started. So we'll be learning construction line, fillet, array, trim, layers, and dimension. So this knowledge is going to be an additional knowledge to what we have learned previously. So we're now going to combine all the knowledge that we have so far in making a dimension drawing. So the first tool we'll be learning is construction line. So now construction line is under draw. You can see your draw menu. There's an arrow there. So the arrow there indicates that there are still other tools that are available. Then we have spline for drawing curve. We have spline for drawing curve. Then we have construction line. So we have ray, we have construction line. So construction line, when you click on construction line, you check your command line. We have different options on how to use construction line. There is a unique way of using construction line. One unique thing about construction line is that construction line does not have a beginning, it does not have an end. Now, this on my screen, you can see a construction line is a very long line, no beginning, no end. It's similar to what you are going to be using your T-square for. If you are doing technical drawing, your T-square is very long and it spans across your drawing sheet. So your T-square, what you do with your T-square, drawing a very long line is the same thing as what your construction line does in AutoCAD. So the construction line is a very long line, no beginning, no end. Unlike your normal line, which has a beginning and an end, a construction line does not have a beginning and an end. The reason why it does not have a beginning and an end is because your page, the paper you are working with in AutoCAD, also does not have a beginning and an end. So it's an infinitely large paper. So your construction line too is infinitely large. So it can span across the length of your page. So the construction line is very important because it helps you to transfer dimension from one point A to point B. I'm going to repeat that again. The importance of the construction line is it helps you to transfer a dimension or a measurement from one point to another point. So that's why there is need for it to be very long so that it can transfer from any point in A to any point in B. So construction line, sometimes you're going to find it very useful as we will be doing today. All right. So now let me try and explain more about the construction line. So construction line again, if you check the command line on how to use the construction line, we have different ways we can make use of the command of the construction line. By default, you say specify a point. Specify a point. So I'm going to follow the default, specify a point. So I click on a point. Then I have another option that says specify true point. So I will click another point. So by clicking just 2 points, I can have a construction line. So I have the option of drawing other construction line. I can also terminate at this point by pressing escape. So when I press escape, you can see the construction line has terminated. Now I have a line that is very long that spans through 2 points that I pick. So I'll do it again. Construction line, pick point 1, pick point 2, escape, escape to terminate. Construction line, pick any point, specify a point as your point 1, specify true point, pick another point to specify point 2. If you like, you can continue picking your point 2 to make other construction lines, but your point 1 is still is still the same for the construction line, depending on what you want. So I'm drawing many construction lines passing through the same point 1 but different point 2. All right, you can see all the lines. If you adjust your zoom, you will see that the lines are very long, no beginning, no end. So this is a construction line. Control A to select all, delete. So I'm deleting everything. So now with this information, you can draw a construction line at an unknown angle. You can see I don't know the angle of this construction line. I'm just picking two random points. So I don't know the angle. So I can draw a construction line at any 2 points without knowing the angle. Another way of drawing construction line is by drawing a construction line that is horizontal. Horizontal. Now I have an horizontal construction line. You can now decide where you want to place it. You place it at any point you like. Similarly, you can have construction line that is vertical. You can see vertical. So if you want to use your shortcut, you can say V enter vertical. So place it at any point that you want. Now you're going to find the use of construction line very important in orthographic drawings. You can draw horizontal construction line and vertical construction lines. So you can see my construction lines now. I'm adjusting my zoom. I'm zooming in and out. Okay, so I'll select this again and delete. Another very important way of drawing construction line is at an angle. What if you want a construction line at a particular angle? Now pick angle option, specify the angle 70, enter. Now you can see now I have a construction line that is constrained at angle 70. So you can decide to drop it at any point you want. All right. So now with this, we have looked at how to draw construction line using 4 methods. The first method is at any angle. At any angle, I'll just pick 2 random points. I don't know the angle. The second method is horizontal. Use horizontal. The third method is vertical method. Use vertical on your option on the command line. While the fourth method is at an angle. Specify the angle 38. Enter. All right, so you can see construction line horizontal, vertical, unknown angle at a specified angle. All construction lines, no beginning, no end. So you will find this construction line very important later on. So that's all about construction line for now. Now the next tool we want to learn in AutoCAD is fillet. Fillet. Fillet is the next tool that we want to learn in AutoCAD. Now fillet, let me draw a rectangle. Fillet is on our modifying tool stack. Fillet is on modifying tool. So we have it fillet and chamfer. Okay, here's our fillet. Here's our fillet. So fillets. So if there's an arrow beside it, so we have fillet, we have chamfer, but now we are using fillet. So I choose to teach about fillet now because the exercise we are going to be having, we are going to be applying these tools. We are going to be applying fillet there. So that's why I'm choosing fillets from the selections from my modifying tools. Now, what fillet does is for having an arc to a corner. You can use fillets to add arc to a corner. Now, if you look at this rectangle that we have, this rectangle has 4 sharp edges. You can see the corner edges. You can see the corner edges. Now, what if I don't want this edge to be cornered? I don't want it to be sharp. I want to just have an arc on this corner. So the best way to do it is just use a fillet to create that corner. So now I'm going to be doing that now. So now let's learn how to use fillets in AutoCAD. I click on fillet. As usual, on the command line, you can see the set of instructions that we have. But now let's follow the instruction from the right hand side. At the extreme right, I have an option that says multiple. Multiple. What multiple does is multiple enables you to apply your fillet setting more than one for more than one instance. Let me repeat that again. Multiple option, if you select multiple option, it enables you to apply your fillet setting for more than one instance. So sometimes if you want to apply fillet once, then you don't need to use multiple. But if you are going to be applying fillets 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, then you might want to select multiple. So it's a choice. Do you want to select multiple or not? The next option is trim. What trim does is that after applying your fillet, do you want it to trim the sharp corner? Is a choice. If you want it to trim the sharp corner, then you might want to click on trim and say, okay, trim. Trim is the default. So by default, it's going to trim the sharp corners. But if you don't want it to trim the sharp corners, then you might want to change that setting to no trim. So now it's on no trim. All right, the next one, which is very important, is the radius. You need to specify your fillet radius. So now, radius, specify fillet radius. So you can specify, is it 4? Is it 5? Based on your dimension. Is it 4? Is it 5? Is it 7? Is it 20? Based on the dimension. But because we don't have a dimension now, what we are doing is we are sketching. I sketched this rectangle. So I literally does not know, I literally do not know the dimension. So now in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 2 points. So once I pick 2 points from the edge, it's going to measure that distance and take it as my fillet radius. So I pick 2 points. So it has taken the distance, it has measured, AutoCAD has automatically measured the distance between the 2 points I picked and has taken that measurement as my radius. So now I can jump to my default option that says select first object. So the first object will be the first side of my corner. Then the second object will be the second side of my corner. So now you can see what I have now. Fillet has been added. This arc is the fillet. Fillet has been added and the sharp corner has not been removed. So because I did not choose multiple, the fillet option is gone. Now let's do fillet again. This time we are going to activate multiple. This time we're going to be activating multiple. So click on fillet again, multiple. Now for my trim option, I will say I want it to trim. So now let's see the result we're going to have. For my radius, I want to pick a different radius. So you can pick any 2 points. Pick any 2 points. So I'm going to do this graphically so that I can pick based on what I want. I've picked my second point. Then I will jump to the default, specify first object. Anywhere can be your first object. This side, my first object. Then this side for my second object. Now you can see the corner is gone, unlike this. So this is no trim. But because of my trim setting, the corner is gone. So because I chose multiple, my fillet setting is still active. Okay, all right now. So I've been able to add fillets to the corners of the rectangle. So no more sharp corner. So now I've applied fillet in 2 ways. I have used no trim setting here, whereas for this other 3 instance, I used trim setting. Then I'm sure you must have learned now how to measure your fillet radius. You can either measure it or you have dimension depending on what you have. All right, so that's fillet. Now, so another way you can use your fillet is you can also use fillet to combine two objects. You can use fillet to combine two different objects with an arc. Now, let's say for instance, I have a line and I have another line. I have another line. Another way you can use fillet is you can use fillet to combine these two objects with an arc. Now, let's try that. Fillet, I'm not choosing multiple, I'm choosing trim, then radius. Now, I need the radius. Now, because this is a sketch, I don't know what particular radius can fit into this. I'm just going to measure something that I think might work. So, I'm going to measure my fillet radius from here to the radius should be this measurement. So I've measured the radius, then select first object, this object, select second object, this object. So you can see Fillet has automatically connected these two objects for me with an arc. So this is one other way you can use Fillet. So we are going to be making use of this option in the exercise we'll be doing. Okay, so let me practice this again. I want to use fillet to combine a line and an arc. So I've sketched an arc. So now I have two different objects. I have a line, I have an arc. So now my goal is now to use fillets to combine these two together. So I click on fillet, radius, measure. I can measure anywhere. Measure the radius that I want. I want this measurement for radius. Then now select first object. You can make anyone your first object. Select second object. All right. So you can see now that what we have, fillet has helped us to combine object one and object two together with an arc. So this is another application of fillet that you need to know. So the third tool that we'll be learning is we'll be learning how to make use of array. Array. We'll be learning how to make use of array. Now, when you go to your modifying tool, array is a modifying tool. So when you go to your modifying tool, so we have three types of array. We have rectangular array, we have part array, we have polar array. Three types of array: rectangular array, part array, and polar array. So the what we'll be learning right now is polar array. Polar array. Okay. So before we do that, let me just sketch out something so that we understand the concept. Then let me draw something different. Okay, let me draw something different. I'm just drawing. I don't have any. Okay, I don't have any specific objects in mind. I'm just drawing a random object. Okay, all right. Now I have a circle to serve as my reference. Then I have this object I've drawn. So my goal is to array this object round the circle. Is to make like maybe 10 copies of this object round the circle. So that's my goal. So to do that, I'll be using polar array to achieve that. Polar array. So now when you click on polar array, command line says select object. So I'm going to select. So this is the object I want to array. So you can use any way of selecting, any method of selecting. Once you are done selecting object, press enter on your keyboard. Then now the next thing is specify center point of array. The center point about which you want to array. In order to be able to pick the center point, you might want to on your object snap. So now object snap is on. So now, but still yet I cannot get the center. So that means I need to check my setting. So I activate center for object snap. Now I can locate the center. All right. So now you can see by default, we have 6 items. I'm going to change this to 10. Enter. It has updated. By me pressing enter, it has updated. Now I have 10 of these objects round the circle. Once I'm fine with this, I can click on close. So now you can see what array can do. So array can create circular, it can create a pattern, a circular pattern of your objects. Array can create a circular pattern of your object. So now let's look at another exercise to learn more about array. So I will draw a circle for reference. The idea of the circle is for reference so that we can pick the center point. Then I will draw my object, the object I want to array. So let me draw something that looks like it gets it or something. So this is to sketch, it's not to dimension. So we don't need to make it to be dimension, just to understand the idea. So now my goal is to make an array of this to make like 15 copies of this round the circle. So I'll click polar array, I'll choose polar array. The instruction says select object. I'll select one of the objects, enter. Now I want to select the center point, specify center point of the array. I want to specify the center point. So I will go ahead, I will on my object snap, make sure center point is activated. Then that will enable me to pick my center point. Then now, how many items do I want? I want 15. Enter. So now accept. If you want to change the number, you can change it. But if not, all right. So now you can see that we have been able to make an array of the object, 15 copies of the object round the circle. So we have been able to achieve this array. So your knowledge of your tools later on, when we start doing dimension drawings, you are going to be applying this knowledge of your tools now to dimensions. All right, so this is good. Now we want to learn three more tools. We want to learn three more tools. So the next tool we want to learn now is trim. The next tool we want to learn now is trim. The next tool we want to learn now is trim. So now for trim, let's quickly look at how to use trim. Let's quickly look at how to use trim. So I draw a rectangle. Before you are able to use trim, there must be an intersection. There must be an intersection. So trim. So I'm using line to create an kind of intersection. To explain better the idea of trim, let's assume we have a piece of clothes. We have a piece of clothes, and some fibers of the clothes is coming out from the boundary of the clothes. So what you would do is that you are going to take a scissors to to trim out those excesses along the boundary. So that's exactly what trim does. So in this case now, this rectangle is serving as our clothes boundary. Then any line coming out, protruding from the circle, I mean from the rectangle, we want to trim it out. So this rectangle is serving as our clothes boundary. So any line, any part of the line that is coming out from the rectangle is what we want to trim out. So this is what we want to use our scissors to cut off. So now how do we achieve this with trim? So I have given you the picture of the goal I want to achieve. So now we want to be able to achieve this with trim. There is a simple method by which you can use trim without your command line. Just a simple method, and it works all the time. A simple method of applying trim without using command line that works all the time. So the method is you click on trim, press enter on your keyboard once. Then the next thing is to select the part of the object that you don't want. I don't want this part. I select. I don't want this part. I select. So you can see, you can just select the part of the object that you don't want. So you can try to use group selection to select. I noticed this was not selecting. I really don't know why. I'm going to try and investigate that. So now I'm not able to select this. The reason why I'm not able to select this is not uh it's not touching, it's not intersecting the boundary I want. It's not intersecting the boundary I want. So this is the only one intersecting the boundary I want, and it's not selecting. It seems odd. I really don't know why, but I'm going to investigate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to escape to cancel trim. Then for this, I'm going to erase. I'm only going to select it. I cannot use trim for this because it's not touching the boundary. You know, we said trim, for trim, there must be an intersection. This is an intersection though, but I'm going to see why this is not trimming off. But for this ones, I'm going to select and erase it. Then now for this, let me see why it's not intersecting. It's kind of odd. Why it's not trimming, sorry. It's kind of odd. But now I try to trim it again and it works. So that might be a glitch in the software. All right. So now I've been able to trim off excesses from the rectangle boundary and I achieve what I want using trim. Let's practice this again. So this time around, I'm drawing a circle boundary. I'm drawing a circle boundary. So when I want to create an intersection, now in this case, there's no intersection. So you cannot use trim for something like this. Why? Because there is no intersection anyway. So what are you trimming? There is nothing to trim. There is no intersection. For you to be able to use trim, there must be an intersection. So I'm going to extend this line to intersect the circle. I'm going to extend this line to intersect. I'm dragging the line to intersect the circle. So now I have an intersection. So now I can now say I want to use trim to trim off this, to trim this off, and to trim this off. So based on the method I'm just teaching you, a very simple way of using trim, click on trim, press enter on your keyboard, then select your wanted parts, which is this and this. So now I'm been able to trim excesses away from the circle. So that's a very good way of using trim, and it works all the time. Now, because I don't want this particular class to be extensively long, we still need to learn layers and dimension. We still need to learn layers and dimension. So I'm going to give a brief overview of layers and dimension. So layers and dimension makes your drawing looks good. Layers and dimension makes your drawing looks good. And it might require me to give you a whole lot of details on layers and dimension. So I don't want this particular class to be overly too long. So because of that, I'm going to direct you to go and watch the videos. I've done a video on the channel, on Remacard channel. I've done a video specifically on layers, just one video on layers. I have done another video specifically on dimension. I have another video specifically on dimension. So I would advise you, maybe after this live class, you might want to take your time to go and watch that video on layers and dimension so that you can understand the concept of how to use layers and dimension. I won't be treating that right now, but we are going to be applying it in the exercise that we are going to do. So now, at this point, we have learned a whole lot of drawing tools. We have learned some modifying tools too. So now let's start applying these drawing tools and modifying tools to dimension drawing. Then later on, we add layers via dimension to our drawing to have a very good orthographic drawing at the end. So now let's go to our exercises. In order to be able to do this exercise, the first task is for you to study the drawing. Now, in studying the drawing, you would observe that we have a few construction lines. You will observe that we have a few center lines. Now, this is the major center line. This line running vertically and this horizontally. So this is the main center line. So I'll be starting my drawing with this main center line, vertical and horizontal. Afterwards, I'm going to use offset tool to make copies of other center lines. Now we have other center lines, vertical. You can see this is another center line. This is another center line. Then horizontally, we have this and this also. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is drawing all my center lines. The center lines are like framework for my orthographic drawings. So let's get this done. In order to do the center line, I'll be making use of construction line. So I'll go to my construction line. The shortcut for construction line is XL. So I'll pick vertical, V, enter. Construction line again. Horizontal, H, enter. All right. So this will going to serve as my main center line, which is this. Then afterwards, I'm going to use offset to get another center line at distance of 50 up and down. So from this main center line horizontally, I'm going to use offset tool to create another center line at distance 50 up and 50 down. So offset distance is 50, enter, select my object up, then select down. Okay, after doing this, I need to make use of my zoom to make sure that my drawings is visible. So I'll be using my zoom to make sure that the drawing is visible. So I've been able to use offset up and offset down, 50 distance. Then next, I'm going to use another offset to create the other vertical line. So I have another center line here and here. So this is another center line, and here is another at a distance of 36, which means 18 to the right, 18 to the left from the main vertical line. So I'll be getting that done. Offset, distance of 18, select object, 18 to the right, 18 to the left. Okay, then lastly, I have another center line of distance 70 from the main vertical center line. Distance 17 to the right. So I'll do that also. Offset, distance 70, enter. Select object, then move to the right. Okay. By drawing this construction line, which serves as a framework for my drawing, it makes my drawing very easy. Now, let's continue. Then the next I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing these two circles of radius 20 and radius 32 from the main center line, radius 20 and radius 32. So I'll go to circle. From this center line, I'll make sure my object snap is on. So I will confirm I have center point active and my object snap is on. So that will enable me to be able to pick the intersection here, which is the center of my circle. So radius 32, then the other circle of radius 20. Okay. All right. So next, I'll be drawing these two circles. So we have the inner circle of radius 5 and the outer to be radius 13. So radius 5 and radius 13. So circle at this point, radius 5, another circle, the same center point, radius 13. Okay, I didn't draw this right. Circle, center point, radius 13. So circle, center point, radius 13. Okay, so now I have 4 copies of this. These two circles, they are in 4 copies. So I'm going to be making use of copy modifying tool, select the two circles, enter center point, then I'll drop it. So I'll make sure I drop it in the right center point. So to create the 4 copies. All right. Then next, I'm going to come to this hand. I have 2 circles here. So I have a circle, a smaller circle of radius 5. Then another circle that has been modified to form an arc. So we have radius 15 and radius 5. So there's a circle here that has been modified. Part of it has been trimmed off. So I'm going to draw the complete circle for now. Later I will trim it off. So 2 circles, radius 5 and radius 15. So circle, another circle. All right. So now my drawing will be coming, be forming shape now. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be using arc. I'm going to be using arc to connect the circles. So here I have arc of radius 12 connecting this. Then the same thing applies here. Then I also have this 12 at this end to connecting this. So I'll be drawing this 4 arc of radius 12. Radius 12 for this, radius 12, radius 12, radius 12. So arc. Now, instead of me using arc, I can always use fillet to achieve the arc. So I'll be making use of fillet to create the arc. So I click on fillet. I'll go to the radius option, radius 12. Then I'll make sure I select multiple because I'm making 4 copies of that. So with that done, I'll be able to make my selection. So by making use of fillet, it makes my work very easy. So fillet helps me to connect the 2 circles with an arc easily. Okay, that has been done using fillet. So next, I'm going to connect these 2 circles with an arc. So the radius of the arc is 32. Then the same thing applies downwards, radius 32. So to do that, I'll be making use of circle. So for your circle, there is an option of tangent radius. So if you look at the circle very well, you will see that this arc is tangent to this circle, is also tangent to this circle. So the best method to do this is using circle with an option of tangent radius. So I'm going to pick this option. Then the first tangent is somewhere around here. So I'm going to select a point. Now, if you look at my screen very well, you see that there is a green indicator on. The green indicator is on because on my object snap setting, I made sure that tangent is on. So tangent is on my object snap setting. So that's why I have that green indicator on. In case you don't have that on, make sure you put it on. It's going to help you to pick the tangent points. So now I can pick here. Then the second tangent point is somewhere around here. So I'll pick a point here, and the radius is 32. So on the command line, I'm asked to indicate the radius of 32. Enter. Now you can see now I have a circle that is tangent to this circle here, tangent to this, and it's well formed. So now next I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off the unnecessary lines that have been created. So I pick trim. So trim, I press enter on my keyboard, then I trim off unnecessary lines formed. Okay, so I can easily delete this part. So that has been done. So I'm going to repeat the same thing down. Circle, tangent option. Pick a point here, another point here, then radius of 32. The circle has been formed. Now I use trim. Enter on my keyboard, then trim off that point, trim off this, then I can go ahead and delete this. Okay, that has been achieved. So the next step for me is to connect these two circles with a line. So I'll be connecting these two circles with a line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my line tool, then I'll come to my object snap and make sure that tangent is on. So I don't need intersection. What I need is tangent, because I want the line to be tangent to this circle around somewhere around here, and also tangent to this circle somewhere around here. So by making use of tangent, it's going to create the line. So I'll use line again, tangents around here, tangents around here. So that gives me the line connecting the two circles. So I'm going to do the same thing here, line. Okay, I think this time I need intersection. So from this intersection to this intersection. All right, good. Now, lastly, the drawing is out. I'm done with the drawing. I'm going to use trim to remove unnecessary lines from. So I'm going to make use of my trim. I click on trim, press enter on my keyboard. Then I will trim off every unnecessary lines. Every lines I don't want. So I'm going to do that. Okay, what else? So I've been able to trim off unnecessary lines. Then my center lines, if you observe the center lines, you can see the center line is allowed to project a little bit outside the drawing, just a little bit outside the drawing. So I'm going to adjust the length of my center lines. I'm going to adjust the length of my center line. So to do that, I'll first draw a rectangle to trim this to a convenient length. Then now I can delete this rectangle. Then now I'm going to adjust the length of my center lines. I'm going to adjust my center lines. I'll make sure that auto mode is on so that it's going to keep the line straight. Keep That's 9. Okay, now I've been able to adjust the length of my center line, so I'm done with this drawing. I'm done with this drawing. Then lastly, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding my dimensions to the drawing. Or before I add my dimension, I think I would like to create the layers. Let me create my layers to make the drawing of different thickness and to show my center line. So I'm going to create layers. So I'll go to layer property. Okay. I'm going to create 2 or 3 new layers. Let me call this layer center lines. Center line. Center line. So if you don't know how to create layers, I have a video on layers that I've done. So you can go through the video to understand how layer is being done. So center line. Okay. Okay. Another layer. I'll call this thick. So this is going to have a dark color. It's going to have a dark color. Then line width. I'm going to make this a bit thick. Then I'm going to create another layer for my text, for my dimension. Okay, I don't need to do that since I'm not adding text, so I don't need to have that layer. So let's okay, after creating my layers, I'll close the dialog box. Then I'll now come and apply the layers. I'm going to start with the center lines, or better still, I'll select all. I'll select all the drawing. Then now I will apply the thick layers to them, to everything. So by applying the thick layer to everything, so that will make sure that all my drawings is in thick. To confirm this, I'll go to my drawing aid and go to show or hide line width. There's a drawing aid icon that has show or hide line width. So by pressing this, I can see that all my layers are thick, but I don't want all of them to be thick. So I'm going to select the center lines and group the center lines properly. So center lines, I'm selecting out my center lines and applying center line to it. Okay, so now I have my center lines in red. Now you would observe that the center lines should be broken lines. The center line should be broken lines. So in order to make it broken lines, I'm going to go and I'm going to select one copy of my center line, right click, properties. So under these properties, I'm going to change the line type scale from 1 to, let me change it to 8. Enter. Okay, let me see how that is. Okay, I think it looks good at 8. It looks good at 8. I can decide to increase it a bit. Right click, properties, line type scale. Let me change it to 10. Okay, this looks good for me. It looks good for me at 10. So 10. So now I want all other center lines to have the same property. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a shortcut called match property. A tool called match property. The shortcut is MA. So I'm going to type MA on my command line, enter. which is for match property. So the source, select source object. The source is this first one. Then destination is the other center lines. So I'm going to select my destination so that it can apply the same property to other center lines. Okay, that is done. So by doing this, I've been able to, my drawing is looking so good. It's looking so good. Then lastly, I'll be adding dimensions to the drawing. So before I do my dimension, I need to do a settings. So in case you don't know how to do dimension setting, I have a video specifically on dimension on AutoCAD. So go check out the video to understand how to do dimension. Okay, now lines, I want my dimension to be blue. Okay, then symbol on arrow size, let me choose 10. Okay, then text, my text too should be 10. Then align with dimension line. So what I'm doing now is I'm customizing my dimension. Then primary unit, whole number. Okay, all right, good. Now set current, close. Now I'm going to be applying my dimension, linear. So now to apply the dimension, I will make sure that my object snap is on. Then for my object snap, I need intersection to be able to pick the endpoint. So I'll make sure the object snap is on for mine to apply my dimension. Okay. All right. So the size of my dimension looks so big. So I'm going to adjust it by going to modify. I use 10 as the arrow size. So let me reduce it to 6. Then text also, I'm going to reduce it to 6. Okay. Close. All right. So this looks good for me. So I'll continue applying my dimension. So okay, so this is radius 5. Okay, so I'm going to bring out all my dimension. Radius 12 for this. Okay, radius 32. Okay, I can edit this text value to show that there are 4 copies of this. So I'll just double click on the text, then I'll be able to edit the text. So 4. So this is to show that there are 4 copies of that circle. So this circle is radius 5. We also have 4 copies of it. So I'm going to double click on the text in order to edit it. 4 copies of it. So this is to show that there are 4 copies of the circle. So now by doing this, I have my drawing fully made. All right, so I hope you have learned 1 or 2 things on how to approach orthographic drawing. So irrespective of how complex the orthographic drawing looks, if you're able to follow this simple approach, you'll be able to get your job done. So thank you so much for taking your time in this tutorial. So remember to subscribe, share this video. See you in the next video.